Backyard Professor Chess videos. I have a fantastic Chessercise of practical tacticals, as I'm calling them now. This is from a game by Garry Kasparov and Anatoly Karpov in the 1990 World Championship match. So it really, seriously doesn't get better than this. This position is absolutely pregnant with possibilities. This is an electrifying position. Karpov has a very good passed pawn right here, even though it's only protected from his queen by his queen, right? You'll notice that his queen is also holding on to this pawn, which Kasparov wants to get to the king, right? Kasparov has this bishop pinned to the king, and the queen is holding that bishop, right? The rook here is directly attacking, or else this rook is directly attacking that rook. This bishop is getting ready to exchange with this bishop. The queen is holding on to that bishop. The possibilities of a knight moving to here, checking the king, opening the file, the queen taking the pawn, the bishop taking the bishop. This is a fascinating board position. Absolutely electric. Kasparov has two different ways to deflect the queen. He wants to deflect the queen. She's overworked. This piece is what holds this entire position together, right? You can see that. She is guarding the pawn, the bishop, the pawn. If Kasparov can get that queen to move, he can win this game. That's it. It boils down to this. So here's how he did it, and it's fascinating to see how he does it. So let's take a look at how Kasparov did this, and this illustrates the theme of my first practical tactical, the idea of the pinned piece. It's a very important element in tactics that we want to train ourselves through numerous examples and practices and chessercising to get to where we can see, so that we can even set it up so that we pin our opponent's piece, right? Queen takes h6. Now, only Kasparov can make a move like that, right? Wrong. Once we get to where we can see pins and calculate the possibilities of the pieces, then we too can do things like this. This is what I want to practice chessercising with you for. Well, the queen takes the queen, of course. There's no question there, and you say, well, wait a minute. Look. The knight. f7. Check with a knight fork to the queen. Fabulous knight fork, right? King has to come up to h7. Now, is Kasparov going to lose a queen and a knight here? This is very interesting, because the rook, well, he could get a rook, all right. He could get a rook. But there's a better play. Do you see it? Now, this takes pure guts, as far as I'm concerned. Kasparov quits guarding the pawn, comes up here and takes the bishop because the queen moved away. He's deflected the queen away from protecting that bishop, so Kasparov puts the king in check. So you can see his army is starting to surround Karpov's king, right? He says, one would suppose that such a quick sequence would be good enough for anyone, but in fact, White had a better sequence than this one. And that's what I want to show you. The better sequence that Kasparov had, and incidentally, Karpov also had a knight here. I didn't put that in the first one. What if he goes knight f7 check first? True, He doesn't get the queen fork at this point, but watch what happens. Queen takes the knight, right? Now, what if the queen takes h6? Check. It's a little bit different board, isn't it? It's a little bit different look. Because now this forces the bishop to h7, and of course the queen here is guarding the bishop at h7. This bishop is guarding him, right? But now look what he can do. He grabs the rook. And now he's got the rook, the queen, the bishop, and the rook. And Karpov has the queen, both bishops, if I put this together right, and both knights. But here he still has pressure, and the pin here and the pin here, it's actually a double pin, right? So this idea allows for a very, very nice ending as well as the one that Kasparov chose. So when we explore tactics, it's fun to see what was played, but it's also fun to see what can be played. Can you guys see the checkmate that can occur from this position? I'm going to let you work it out and tell me in the comments below my video. It's pretty nifty. So that's one idea. Let me show you another one real quick. You want to see this one, don't you? I knew it. Remember in our first practical tactical, I told you to pay attention to the king up here in the high corner, right? He only has, his bishop now is in his way, and incidentally is pinned. Bishop can't move. So the king only has 2 flight squares to go to, right? This bishop is also pinned and it's attacked. This bishop is pinned and it's attacked. But the interesting thing is, the rook here covers the 2 escape squares of the king here, doesn't it? So all we have to do is find a way to put that king in check, right? It's white's move, right? Rook takes the piece that is pinned and attacked. Check. The king cannot move, so it virtually forces Karpov to take the rook with the queen, right? Now we can go checkmate. And you go, no, that ain't checkmate, you dork. He can go to here. Well, okay. Then we can go checkmate, because we've got the file. Kasparov had the file. So what Karpov did is he made an ingenious rule that there's an invisible square out here, and he moved his king outside of the influence of the chessboard, and he kept playing. No, he didn't do that. I'm just kidding. Let me show you another example. Oh, chess is fun, isn't it? This is another really fun, interesting position because it involves a decoy, right? He's got his 8th rank guarded. It's white to move. You're not going to just push the pawn and promote to a queen because you're simply going to be taken either direction, right? It'd be nice if we could do this, but we can't because he'll simply take it, right? It'd be nice if we could do this, but we can't. He'll simply take it, and that'll basically be an exchange of queens, and that's not going to work. So what does white do here? It's a great theme, something to keep in mind. White does a decoy sacrifice. He takes the bishop. Now this takes courage because you think you're going to be losing the exchange. You're exchanging your powerful piece for a less powerful piece, but the result is that it got the queen off of the rank the king is on, right? So, with that idea, now queen takes a7, check. And you go, are you flipping kidding me, dude? Wow! What a crazy move. But watch. Just watch. King takes the a7, right? Now the pawn promotes to a knight. Check and forking the queen. And now white has an easily won ending. The king has to move, the king moves, and now white can win this ending. So that gives you an idea of what a decoy sacrifice is. Let me show you another fun, practical, tactical with our Chessercises. This rather remarkable position was played by Adolf Anderssen in the late 1800s. He was one of the strongest chess players in the 19th century to ever grace this game. He's playing black and he's an entire rook down. Now he has great central power. However, the pawn is threatening that bishop, right? The bishop's staying right here and he is exerting tremendous force. The knight is covering critical squares. The queen is coming up against the critical pawns, but his opponent has made great inroads. He's got some fantastic potential, seriously damaging ways to get to this king. Anderssen has to do something quick. You're not going to just take the pawn with the bishop because you'll lose the bishop, right? You can't come here and zing this and take that queen. The critical square in this position is the d4 because he has just pushed it to threaten his bishop. And he's not going to push that bishop back if he can help it. But this d4 square, well, the problem is the queen is protecting it. So Anderssen does something astonishing. Can you see what he does? He brings his queen down to f1 and goes check. That is an incredibly interesting move. It calls for dynamic play. He can't afford to lose that bishop if he can at all help it. But what this does is it deflects the queen away from defending d4 because the queen has to take the queen. The king can't because the knight's guarding the queen, right? So queen does take f1, and I think he did it regrettably once he realized what Anderssen was doing. But instead of responding with retaking the queen at this point, Anderssen has something more important to do. Bishop takes d4 check. The knight is guarded, right? The king is running out of flight squares. Do you notice this? Well, this virtually forces bishop up to e3, right in the clutch of Anderssen's pawn. But as we observe the board, the pawn won't be nearly as effective against this king as another move. Do you see it? Anderssen has played the imbalances properly, and once again, as I say in so many videos, I'm serious. Where's his rook? Right on the open file. What's it doing there? It's attacking a bishop. Put your rooks on open files so that you can get to your king, because that works. I can't overemphasize this. Every great game, a lot of great tactics that I've been finding show rooks on open files doing that. Now that is a power move. King comes back to g1 because now he's got all those flight squares of the king gone. There's no flight square there. He's only got one square where he can go back to safety. And where do you think the rook's going to go? This is such a fantastic checkmate, it's incredible. The rook drops down to E1. Checkmate. You go, huh? Checkmate? Yeah, the bishop. Checkmate. He's threatening his queen and his rook. His queen is threatened with the knight, but he covers the flight square. And it's a discovered checkmate. It's unlikely we'll see a finished position of such magnitude ever again. So take a good look at this one and play through this in a few times to get the feel for it. This is one of those fun, practical tacticals that's a little difficult to see, but if you understand the imbalances that is in your favor, and you recognize that the tactic of deflecting a piece that's guarding an important square or an important piece so that you can take possession of it. I mean, he's got the queen, the rook, the knight in danger. And he's checkmated him with his bishop and his knight and his rook. And he had more space on the king side, so of course, pursuing that theme, central and kingside space, he was able to take on a spectacular kingside attack. That's one of the best I've ever found. I find these in the Mammoth Book of Chess by Grandmasters. A very fun, exceptionally huge, fascinating 530-page book on chess. I would highly recommend you getting it. So, thanks for watching my chess videos. I'm enjoying putting them together. I'm enjoying showing you Chessercises and practical tacticals. I've got a whole lot more and more videos. In the meantime, happy Chessercising, happy checkmating, and I will see you in the next video.